Welcome back to Five Friday Feedback. Thank you so much for joining us. This was a special episode this week. It was really a recap and a reaffirmation of what we're doing here at the Five Guys and what we want to continue to do for the next 100, 200 episodes. But we talked about the five pillars that we're going to recap today, talk about a few questions that we have. But Dominic, how was your week?
My week was great, actually. I made some interesting improvements in my life and in my house, actually. So that's going to be talked a little bit more in my win of the week, which I hope is a very inspiring win of the week. So I'm excited to get to that, but that's going to be at the end of the podcast. As you know, we do the recap from Monday's episode, the viewer mailbag, where you write into us, and then finish off with the win of the week. So we got a little bit to get to before that, so I got to wait a little bit longer, but my week was good. How about you, Chris? I noticed the background is different. Maybe if you watched Monday's episode, you also know that the background's different. Chris, why is the background different? What's the deal? Is that part of your win of the week as well? How was your week?
That is part of my win of the week. So we'll talk about that later. If you're watching us just on, if you're watching us on Spotify or on YouTube, then you'll see that things make it a little bit different back there, but they're still the same because it's still the same unit, just a little bit different. But yeah, so what we talked about on Monday's podcast, first we kind of started about what we didn't like about the financial independence, retire early space, why we felt we should make a podcast, and a little bit of our origin story. So do you want to recap any of that, Dominic?
Where to start? Are we talking the original conversations? Are we talking the creation of the pod? What genre, what part do you want?
Maybe we should talk a little bit about what we felt was missing from the financial independence space, retire early, and what we felt we could bring that would be different. Why did we decide to do this rather than, I don't know, anything else we could have done?
Absolutely. Yeah, no. So one of the things that Chris and I noticed early on with the financial independence space is, one, a lot of it was bad information, really bad information. And if you didn't know, how do you know, right? The second part of it was unbelievably judgmental. The people who have no clue. So starting out, we have a lack of education. And then on the other end, we have people belittling other people for their lack of education while also not providing any education. So we're trying to fix that cycle with good information from, Chris. He's a financial advisor. He's been doing it for a decade. He knows what he's doing, right? And really give a kinder side to finance, a more hopeful side to finance, right? So as you guys know, right, there's a viewer mailbag after this, and I've read through it already just to make sure it's good for this week. But part of it talks about, is FI even possible for me, for a guy like me? And it's similar verbiage, and it's the self-talk that worries me, right? Because a lot of people have come up with this notion that I can't be rich, I can't be wealthy, I can't be free. I'm going to work till I'm dead or 65, either or, whatever comes first. And our goal with this podcast is to inspire you about financial independence. It's not some gross Excel spreadsheet mess, right? And for those who use the Excel spreadsheet, God bless you. But finance has come so far in just the last 2 years with automation, with AI, with different apps like Rocket Money, with, Intuit, and just all these different things, right? Copilot. And I just want... Monday's podcast really reiterated to me that there's still a lot to teach. There's still a lot of people to reach, and there's still a lot of bad information out there. So that's kind of the week I had. That's the thoughts that have been going through my mind this week. But what are you excited about for the next 100 episodes, Chris?
Whenever I make these podcasts, whenever I'm just trying to design what should we talk about, it's really whatever's interesting me. So the thing that I love about the podcast is that it's ours and we can do whatever we want with it. So I'm just excited to, as I go on my morning walks, to have new ideas of like, oh, we can talk about this on the podcast or this on the podcast, or discuss this topic that has been done 1,000 different ways in this different way. So that's what I'm most excited about, is just keep on having more ideas and trying to build this community as large as we can, build this podcast and reach as many people. The reason we started this podcast, just like you said, was there's a lot of bad information, a lot of misinformation. There's a lot of judgment out there. And I would say that a lot of the judgment sometimes wasn't even that it was wrong. The people were making the wrong choice. They were just making a different choice than the person who was giving the advice would give. That's the reason that we never have prescriptions here. We never say this is what you should do. This is what you ought to do. This is what you could do. These are options that are successful. There's the old people look at the 10 Commandments, right? From the Bible, like thou shalt not, thou shalt not, thou shalt not. And you think like, okay, there's all these things that are prescriptive. I will not do these things. I cannot do these things. But if you actually look at the translation of Hebrew to English, it's not thou shall not, it's thou ought not. So we've kind of we've taken these things that we can't do these things to, you should not do these things. But the thing is, if there's a God or anything, he gave us free will. And he gave these commandments of, if you choose to live your life this way, it will be bad. Or you will live in hell in this lifetime and maybe in the next. But I always thought like that we're not prescribing, we're not telling you what you have to do. We're just saying, hey, this is what people have done before you that has been successful. But ultimately, if there's one thing I know, is that people need to find their own way. So I'd like to talk about the 5 pillars that we discussed. And
I just want to cut in real quick. And I think I know we're getting into the pillars, right? But I think what you said was so under the radar, so undersaid. Like, it's so important what you just said. I would just want to make it so clear what Chris just said, because he's so right? There's more than one way to be successful. And, Chris and I, you ought to do it this way, right? But so many times when especially myself, like going down the financial rabbit hole, real estate's like, no, the best way to make money in real estate, Section 8. No, the best way is multifamily. No, you got to buy 100 doors. It's actually commercial because of and it's like, dude, there's a million ways to skin a cat. And I love my cat, but I would never do that. But that's what I like about finance is there's so many ways to be successful. And we're just giving you options. That's at the end of the day, it's just knowledge and options so that you can make the decision best for your life, because we don't know your life. We don't know everything about you to make the best decisions for you. Only you know that, right? Only you can prevent forest fires. So with that being said, I want to get into the meat and potatoes of today's podcast, recapping Monday's episode, talking about the 5 pillars. And I give my microphone back to you, Chris. I know I had to cut in there. I just wanted to make sure people know that there's so many different ways to be successful. There's not just one way, but there is a direction. There's commonalities, there's habits that can get you there quicker, get you there more efficiently. And that's kind of what the 5 pillars are all about. So starting off with pillar number 1, Chris, what do we got?
Yeah, I'm just going to give you all the pillars actually in the advent of time. And then if you guys want to learn more about that, I just say go back to listen to Monday's podcast. Sure. But pillar number 1 was clarity over confusion. Making sure that you actually know your numbers, know your goals, know your values, know your why. Why are you doing what you're doing? Too many people go through life when it comes to their money, not understanding what's happening, hoping that somebody else is going to come and save them, hoping that a hero will come. You have to be your own hero. And the way to start to be your own hero is to understand what's going on with yourself, to know yourself, as our boy Socrates once said. Pillar number 2 was spending intentionally. How many of us go through the store, we just kind of buy stuff, meander. We're just walking through life, sleepwalking. We're sleepwalking through life, not actually making intentional decisions with anything, but especially when it comes to our spending. So if pillar number 1 is understanding, pillar number 2 is that you have to now do something with that understanding. You need to put intention behind the understanding and make sure that you're spending money to what you actually value, to your end goal. Pillar number 3 was income is just a tool, not an identity. Too many people think that their money is who they are. Their money is a physical representation of how good of a person they are. When in truth, money is just money. It's just a tool. If I acquired a bunch of hammers, there's no way I could be like, I'm the best person in the world. Look how many hammers I have, or how many pens, or how many this or that. It just is a part of you. Yeah. Money is just a part. It's not everything. Wealth has so much to do more with other external factors than numbers and bank accounts. Wealth has to do with your relationships, with your health, with the way that you conduct your life, with your spirituality. All of these things have to do with wealth. Only one aspect is money. And I would say it's probably the smallest aspect. Pillar number 4 is automation and simplicity. I always like to say that complexity is the enemy of progress. Too many financial advisors, too many people on podcasts, they try to confuse you by making this system that should be pretty damn easy, by making it over complex, because they're trying to sell you something. They're trying to get you to buy whatever it is that they're trying to buy, whatever they're trying to get you to do. buy my system, buy my course, buy my whatever. Here at the Five Guys, we're not selling a course. We're not selling anything. If you want to come over and go to monzonwealth.com and reach out to me to help out, that's always available to you. But we don't push that. And then we don't push it for a reason, because not everyone needs it. But just know that we're here for you if that's the case. And when it comes to automation, there are things in life, and finance is one of those things, that just setting it up one time and getting the hell out of the way is actually a lot better than you getting in there and touching stuff and messing around with it. It's kind of like if you paint your wall, right? So say I paint that wall back there.
Yeah.
If I just paint it and I walk away and come back, it'll be done. But if I paint it and then go like, it's not drying fast enough, I should paint it again. It's not drying fast enough, I should paint it again. All I'm going to do is just make the situation worse. And I'm going to delay what I need to get to. And pillar number 5 was community and conversations. If there's one thing that we say on every single podcast, it's to share the Five Guys with one friend, with one family member, with a complete stranger. Not because we want to grow the podcast, a little bit because we want to grow the podcast, but also because we want you to bring more people along for this journey. We want this message of financial independence to spread. We want to be able to help more people so that they can take control of their life, so that money is not a barrier to them living the best life that they possibly can. And in order to do that, we need to build this community. We need to build people that are supporting one another, because there's too many people online right now that are busy tearing each other down. And we want to be a place where we build each other up to be the best versions of what we possibly can be. Because at the end of the day, you want everyone to raise up, because a rising tide does lift all boats. You don't want to be the person standing on all the ashes. That's not a world to live in. And too often our money conversations pushed off to the sidelines. You aren't worthy of having this conversation about money because you don't know enough. I want to open up to anybody. I don't care if you are a PhD level in finance, or if you're just some guy or gal who's straight into high school and has no idea but wants to start to learn. We are here to not judge you, to not know where you are, to not say like, oh, you're only here, like you shouldn't talk to us. We're willing to talk to anybody to try, because ultimately, if we help you at some point, even if it's come to me to help me directly, you will help somebody, and that person could create a ripple effect that can change the entire world. So that's our goal, is to make little progress every single day and be those ripples on the pond that eventually becomes a tidal wave of change, not just financially, but also for people's lives.
I really liked what you said about lifting everyone up, right? As we know, there's 2 ways to have the tallest building, right? You either build the tallest building or you tear all the other buildings down. And like you said, I mean, we live in a world where fear and anger is what sells, right? The good of humanity doesn't sell as quickly. That's okay. That's okay. Let it. That's fine. It's going to do what it's going to do. But that's why we're going to be here doing good work as good people, helping other good people, right? And I think that's what the podcast is. It's at its core. It's like, that's what it's about. It's about helping people. It's about growing people. It's about coming into a world and leaving it better than you found it. And doing our little part, our small part, whatever we can do to help and share the knowledge, we're going to do it. So I want to ask you some questions. From last episode, you asked me some questions that I really liked, but we didn't get a chance to go into what your thought process was. Over the last 100 episodes, kind of what has changed for you?
What's changed? I think the biggest thing that's changed for me, when we started the podcast, my goal was to grow the podcast to be like a big podcast where we had a huge amount of followers and got a lot of engagement, all this stuff. And what I noticed as we were kind of getting into like the midway through the 50s and stuff is that we started trying to change ourselves to be more of what the audience wanted, more of what the algorithm wanted. And I was like, all right, let's do this because we need to grow this podcast. But then I started not liking doing the episodes because we weren't being ourselves. We didn't get to be us.
Yeah.
And I think that's where all the fun comes in, right? I don't want to come onto the podcast and play a character. I've had people that I've met who are like, oh, wow, you are literally the same person you are on the podcast. And it's like, yep. Like, I probably cuss a little bit more in real life than I do on the podcast. But
yeah, just a little bit. Just a little bit.
Other than that, it's the exact same person.
Yeah.
So something I changed my mind on is that we should change ourselves to grow. We should change ourselves to please the algorithm, to please the audience. One thing I never wanted to do, or one thing I don't want to do now, is to fall into audience capture, where we begin to do things because it gets us clapbacks from our audience, because it helps us grow. Because then what we've created this podcast to be is something where we're sharing our actual knowledge, our actual experiences. I'm not trying to sit here to be the person upon high saying like, this is how you have to live your life to be financially independent, because I don't know. I only know my way, and it works for me some of the times. Like, it doesn't work all the time, and that's okay. And not to be like, we are these, you know, tallest towers, we're the greatest people in the world when it comes to money, because we're not. We're just people. And people are people are people are people. And never meet your heroes, because you're going to realize they're just another human being, flawed and imperfect, just like you. And that's cool. So that's the one thing I've changed my mind on, is that we don't need to change who we are.
I like that. I like that. You know, I think it's better to be hated for who you are than loved for someone you're not. And, you know, it kind of reminds me of like movies nowadays. I don't know. I saw this thing. I think it was Quentin Tarantino who said it, but he was saying that the reason movies suck nowadays is because they're making movies based on what they think people want to see versus making movies that they love to make. Right? We love Tom Cruise movies. We love Quentin Tarantino movies because we know what we're gonna get. Like, they put their heart and soul into this film. They did it based on what they love. We love their style. We attract to them. We go towards them, right? And that's the only way it can work for us. And really, that's the only way you guys can operate in life. Please, I beg you, don't be anything other than yourself. So the second question was, has anything you've changed your mind on since we've started in regards to like finance, in regards to like, you know, as time goes on, I've become more pessimist, I've become more optimist, you know, something like that. Has your mind kind of changed a little in the last 100 episodes?
I think when I first started that, I thought a little bit like we started the podcast because we're like, there's so many different ways. There's a million ways to skin a cat. I hate that expression, but it makes sense.
Yeah.
And I thought like, okay, there's probably like a million ways. I now think there's like an infinite number of ways. Like it never ends. And that's the reason that the podcast can continue basically indefinitely, because there's so many different ways. So something that has or hasn't changed is, or I don't remember which the question was, but I think it's just that there's just so many different ways. And that's just kind of reiterated to me that even though I thought there was a lot of ways, there are even more ways than I thought. So anyone telling you like, this is the way you have to do it, it's just like, it's crazy, because they don't know your life. They don't know your time. They don't know your situation, all of those things. Everything's different.
And, you know, one thing that we know from our extensive history and knowledge of the world, you know, only a Sith deals in absolutes. We know this. This is accurate. Everybody knows this is common knowledge, right? So yeah, when someone tells you, it's like, no, this is the only way. Like, you're an idiot if you do it other way. This is the only way. It's like, Sith, bad. Remember that. Bad, right? It always like is so interesting to me. It kind of breaks my brain a little bit when someone comes up on a platform, they have clips and they give bad information. And it's like, dude, I want you to succeed, but you're still young in your journey. And it's weird because I'm young and you're young. But it's like, you need to experience more to know that there's more ways to do things. Right? There's more ways. There's 1,000 ways to cook a potato. Like, there's so many ways, right? There's so many ways to become wealthy. There's so many ways to fail. It's like, there's not one size fits all. And I just, makes me sad when I hear people just give blanket advice, because it never works. And I think that's, I don't want to go into this, but that might be one of the reasons why I'm not the biggest fan of like the Dave Ramsey, like talk show and approach and everything. It's just all dead is bad. It's like, I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say there's, you know, I'd love to buy a house one day, you know, and I'm not going to pay all cash. You know, I don't make enough to put $400,000 down and not feel it, but that's just me.
Yeah. And that's been one of the hardest things, right? One thing that I think it was difficult is when we were trying to grow the channel, we were doing a lot of shorts and stuff like that. And one of the reasons that we did the long form podcast, and I know we've shortened our podcasts a little bit. Now they're like 30 to 45 rather than an hour to an hour and 30. You know, just to help us with our time and to help the algorithm a little bit. But it's so hard to go into the nuance of everything in a 60-second TikTok. That's why I say, like, whenever you hear anybody saying like, you can't do this, it's like, yeah, that's only a partial truth. Like everything's just partial truth. All of these things are so deep, so nuanced, so layered that you need to have an hour to just break down like, oh, do I want term life policy or a whole life policy? Like there is, for most of the time, a right answer. But did I ever say like, oh no, it's always a bad decision? Then it wouldn't exist. Like it's crazy to me how many people go through life just hearing like a rule that somebody said.
Yeah.
And they just go their entire life with never questioning the rule. What if that rule was wrong? Because most of the time it probably is.
100%. You know, and the world's changed so much since we were young, and so much in the last year, so much in the last 2 years, right? I think if you can build, there's so many, I mean, there's like a bucket of skills that like if you could have this, you would be ahead, right? But one of the skills that kind of popped out when you were speaking was the ability to question everything. Even something as secure as, well, I've always done this, Chris. So, I mean, it's always worked for me. Why would I change it? It's like, no, being able to question even the most core foundational aspects of your life is the best way to filter out bad tasks, not optimized tasks. You know, it's just things that aren't working, right? We can always make things a little bit better, and just always question everything. Just always question everything. Why are they doing this? What's their motive? What's going on? What's the, why? You know, why? Sorry, little Borat reference. But what do you think, Chris? How can, I don't even know what I'm getting at here, but I think it's just so important to question everything. And as someone who's just a very curious person, it comes naturally. But for someone who's kind of a hermit, or they don't want the answers, you know, kind of a philosophy that I have is like, don't ask questions you don't want the answers to, right? But if you're afraid to even ask the questions, how do you get over that, Chris?
Start small. Start just asking. I think, for me, I'm fine with asking questions because I'm fine looking stupid.
Yeah.
I think that too many people, they have their identity of, I must be the smartest person in the room. Like I have to be this. And if you do that, you close yourself off to so much. Yeah. It's only the person who is fine in themselves to be like, I'm not the smartest person in the room, but my identity is that I will learn. I can learn anything given the right question, the right timing, the right anything. So you have to look at yourself and see, what is it about me that makes me afraid to ask the questions? I don't want to look dumb. I've talked about it on the podcast, but like traditional schooling failed me as a kid. Like I was the kid that kept on asking why 5 times to like I remember asking the teacher, like, why is the speed of light the speed of light? Like, why can't you go faster than the speed of light? And they're like, because. I was like, but why? Like, because that's the way it is. It's like, but why? He's like, all right, this kid must be stupid. It wasn't in physics, but it was like in language when I would ask, like, why does an A make an A? And why does a B make a B? Why are these things? They're like, well, this kid must be dumb because, in truth, the teacher probably felt like, I don't know the answer, so this kid's dumb. So at some point, like the school system failed me as a kid for asking why too many times, and that hurt a lot as a kid. But as an adult, it makes me, that's kind of my superpower, is to just keep on asking why until I really understand it, or understand it enough to work within the realm of reality. So it's courage. It takes courage. In life, there are 4 pillars, the 4 Stoic pillars, which I'm probably going to forget, but justice, wisdom, courage, and
temperance.
So those Stoic beliefs are one of those things. And one of the biggest ones is courage. Without courage, you're never going to get out of bed. You're not going to do anything. You have to have courage for a better day. And if you think I'm at my final form right now, you're like freaking Frieza, like I'm in my final form and I don't get any better than this. If there's one thing, if you watch Dragon Ball Z, which I do, is that there's another level. There's a new hair color if you watch long enough.
That's awesome. That's so true, though. That's so true. And it's interesting. You're never going to find one person who has all the answers for you. That person will never, that human will never be, right? Humans are like puzzle pieces. This guy over here, he's got that corner piece. That guy over there, he's got the border piece. He's got this piece over there, that piece over there, right? Nobody's going to have all the pieces you want, right? I would hope not, right? Because then it'd just be like, I want to be like Chris. I'm gonna move next week too, and I'm gonna cut my hair like this, and I'm gonna get a very controversial tan, and right? But so not everybody's gonna have you shouldn't look for like the person who has all the answers. And I would never, ever just get all your information from one person, right? Never get all your information from one person. Always get it from a trusted and varied source. Back to you.
And even a trusted and varied source, you still need to corroborate it. You still need to be a scientist in your own life. There's a saying in Buddhism that I never understood until relatively recently. It's if you meet the Buddha on the path, you must kill him. And I was like, I don't know what the hell that means. But what I think it means, and this is just on my kind of thinking about it, is that you're on your own path. And if the Buddha is on your path, that you have to get rid of him because you only have your path. And the Buddha trying to tell you how to walk down your path, even if he was the most enlightened being in the world, even if all these things are true or not true, anyone who comes onto your path to say you have to follow me on your path, you need to eliminate them. You need to take what you can from them, learn, but move forward. The reason I like Buddhism so much is it is the most scientific of all the religions. I mean, I study like secular Buddhism where it's not even religious for me. It's just more the concepts. But I like it in that it says like, don't trust me. Even the Buddha said, don't trust me. You have to go out there. You need to apply these things to your own life and see if it's true for you. Because even the Buddha realized that it was only his experience that he could call on.
I think that's really interesting. I think that's interesting. If you're on the same path as someone else, you're probably on the wrong path. You got to create your own path. Mm-hmm. And you can take ideas from other people's path, but be careful following someone else's path too closely because you might lose yourself in the process. And I think with that being said, we're going to offer some more advice to our friend here in the viewer mailbag. But do you have any final thoughts on the recap for Monday? Perfect.
No.
Ready. Let's get into it then. So this is the part of the podcast. If you are new, we call this the 5 Friday Feedback Viewer Mailbag. We'll post these episodes, this segment, this clip on Wednesdays weekly from the previous week's Viewer Mailbag. So with that being said, today's letterhead is hesitant but hopeful about Phi. Just need a nudge. Alrighty, let's get into this. Howdy, Phi guys. I've been listening to the show for a while now, quietly on my commute, during walks, or when I need something to ground me. Nice.
Cool.
I really admire how down to earth you guys are in your conversations, and you don't sugarcoat things, but you also make it feel like it's possible. That being said, I'm a bit stuck. Alrighty. Hence the letter. I've been thinking about pursuing financial independence for months now, maybe even years, but I haven't taken any real steps. I'll run a few numbers and get excited for a day or two, and then fall back into old habits, spending too much money, avoiding my budget, and telling myself, I'll get serious next month. I think a lot of people can relate to this, myself included. Honestly, I think I'm scared. Scared that I'll try and fail. Scared that I'll try, scared that I'll have to give up everything fun in the process. Shouldn't. Scared that maybe I'm too late or behind to even bother getting started. I don't come from money. No one ever taught me this stuff growing up. And sometimes when I hear people talk about FI or financial independence, it sounds like a club for people who already had a head start. I want to believe that it's possible for someone like me, but I need to hear it straight. So my question is, what would you say to someone who's on the fence, who wants this, but is paralyzed by fear, self-doubt, and a sense that it might be already too late? I know I need to change. I just don't know where to begin without overwhelming myself and giving up again. Thanks for all that you do. You make this feel less lonely. Oh, alrighty. Finance can be a scary, lonely path. That's why we always say try and go with a friend, right? From I dream of Phi, but stall with fear, hope and clarity will soon appear. Alrighty. Interesting. A lot of little lines in there that have me worried, have me concerned about this person. You want to start it off, Chris?
Yeah, the first thing I want to say is when it comes to this person, they say that they will sometimes get started, they'll start, then it goes. And knowledge is usually not the issue. Consistency is the issue. And that consistency is what we talked about earlier on with the 5 pillars. It's that why, the clarity over confusion. Understanding why are you doing this? What do you think, Dom?
My thought process all my life has been, if you're too scared to do it, you don't want it bad. And it's a very harsh and mean way of thinking. And I don't think it's always correct. But then again, we're usually hardest on ourselves. But this quote I heard a couple weeks back, it kind of hit me because, I feel fear too, right? Just because we post podcasts doesn't mean we're immortal all of a sudden, right? I'm a human just like you, and I feel fear. And that's good. It's good to feel fear. It's very good to feel fear because you're pushing yourself past what you think you can even do, right? And one of the quotes that often rattles in my mind is, if you're too afraid to do it, you don't deserve the success, right? I'm not saying that's what's happening here. This is my inner dialogue for me. But I think getting to the root of, why are you scared, right? I know you said you're scared of quitting, right? You're scared of, stopping again, right? Well, that comes from discipline, right? How disciplined are you? Can you find a section in your life where you can draw kind of, I don't know what the right word is, you can draw motivation from, you can draw experience from, right? This beautiful script I heard once was, I haven't been going to I haven't gone to the gym in years. That's good. You've been consistently not going to the gym for years. You're consistent. You know how to be consistent. We just need to flip it, right? You already have the ability to do that. So I think one of the things that kind of, when I was reading this, I was thinking about was, I know there's something in your life you're consistent on. I know it, right? You're not a baby. You're not a child. You're not just born, right? I hope not, right? Although you'd be a pretty intelligent baby for writing up this beautiful paragraph.
Yeah, you're way ahead of the curve.
You're way ahead of the game. Yeah, this is a genius level baby. But there's things in your life that you are consistent on. You do have discipline with, right? I assume you eat at least once a day. You're not going starving, right? I assume you get enough sleep, right? So you have consistency, right? You have the discipline to do things. We just need to expand that discipline a little bit and understand it's like, hey, it's not as scary as we think. Most of life's fears, it's only in the mind. Because remember, there's a difference between fear and danger. Like danger is real, right? The guy walks into my house right now with a bat. I'm like, wow, that's danger. He's not supposed to be here, right? If I'm about to give a presentation in front of 1,000 people, right, and I feel fear, well, I'm not in any real danger. My life isn't at risk, right? It's just anxiety. It's just fear, and fear can be tampered down. Anxiety can be tampered down. One of the things that he said in here was, I fear it might be too late. Now, I'm very optimistic. That's just who I am. I'm a big optimist, and it gets annoying sometimes for other people, I'm sure. But I don't believe it's ever too late. Mm-hmm. You can always make things better, even if you're at the end. You can always change the way you think about things. And I honestly hate the advice I'm going to give, because I just hate it. But it's good. It's good advice. It's like, you need to change how you see yourself. You need to change the mindset. You need to change the way you're seeing things, right? The way you're seeing things. Dude, I'm guessing you're in America, at least a first world country, right? This is great. You have the idea to change. Most people don't even have the inclination to change. They don't want to change. They don't even know how to change. You've already started down this process. So while you're thinking, hey man, I'm way behind, dude, no, you're ahead. You're ahead of so many people. But that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's fictitious. It is what it is. It's a fugazi motivation, right? And we're not looking for the motivations. I'm ahead of everybody. It's like, that feels good. I totally get it. It feels so good, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, right? You're ahead of yourself. You're the best version of yourself that you've ever been. You're better than you were 3 years ago. You're more knowledgeable and you're more bold. I mean, look, he wrote into a podcast. That's a bold move. I love that. Chris, what do you think?
One thing that when I look on here, there's a bunch of things, but one of the things that he said is that he's scared of losing all the fun in the process, scared of maybe it being too late, scared of failing. Dominic, how long is right now?
It's right now.
Yep, it's gone.
It's gone. It's just left.
Yep, here's the new now. New
Yeah,
now. New now.
wait.
Okay. Yep.
Us
I
again.
don't need you to be Mr. Budget, Mr. Finance forever. I need you to be a little bit better right now.
Yep.
And now that's gone. In the next moment, you can choose if you want to do it again. If you find that financial independence is ruining your life, taking all the fun, taking all of the fear, taking all of the things, taking everything away from you, you can choose to stop. But I can tell you from doing this for a long time, I have never met a single person who has said that learning about financial independence, that pursuing the path of financial independence has in any way made their life worse. I'm There are people that take it to extremes, that start reusing toilet paper or like doing crazy stuff to try to save money. That is not what we are trying to tell you here at the Fi Guys podcast. I am saying that if you just take control of your thing, if you get out of the hamster wheel of life, if you decide to take a different path than what is normally prescribed, the normal path is go to school, go to college, get a job, work for the next 45 years, get a pension, die. That doesn't work anymore. There are no pensions. Working 45 years for a company doesn't matter anymore because they're not going to reward you anyways. Going to college is going to put you $300,000 in debt. Traditional schooling does literally nothing for you, or figuratively nothing for you. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
we're in a different system. And if you want to be in that system, that's fine. But sometimes you have to buck the system. You have to do something completely different. And you want to do it for right now. Try it. Try it. And if you don't like it, you can always decide, I don't want to do this anymore. You get to have a new now. And that new now, you can choose whatever you want. But again, I have never met anybody who has pursued financial independence and said that it made their life worse if they pursued it the right way. If you continue to listen to the Fi Guys, continue to learn, continue to get better. If you think that from here to financial independence is too big of a chasm to jump, you're 100% correct. It is right now. I'm not asking you to go from where you are right now to financial independence. I'm asking you to get 1% better. If that means just opening up your bank accounts tomorrow and just being like, all right, this is where I am. That's all it is. If it means opening a bank account, that's all it is. You said that you feel like you're behind. If you listen to our podcast regularly, it means you have headphones. It means you have an iPhone or a Samsung. You have some sort of phone. You're in the top 1% of civilization. There are people right now who are going to wake up in dirt floors in a dirt house or on the dirt with maybe a piece of tin over their head. They don't even know what questions to ask and not ask. They don't know about financial independence. They don't know any about this stuff. And there are people that come into this country or go into different countries all the time who escape some of the worst tragedies that we could imagine in order to make themselves better. And when they succeed, we still don't like them because they show us what we are incapable of doing. Not because they're more capable than us, but because we have too much fear to even start, to even try. So if you're on the fence, you need to look at yourself. Why are you on the fence? Why do you want to pursue financial independence? Because if it's too hard for you, then maybe you just don't want it enough. And that's okay. If you decide this isn't for me, that's completely fine. But it sounds to me, if you're writing on this podcast, that you want something different for yourself. Why is that? Is it for yourself? Is it for your family? Because if it's me, I'm going to try to make that thing something bigger than me. I don't want to just become financially independent because I don't want to work anymore. I want to be financially independent so that I can spend every moment with my child when they're eventually born. Every moment with my wife that I possibly can. How cool is it that on a Friday, midday, Dominic and I can hop on a podcast together? Like we don't have work, don't have anything. I get to sit here all day and unpack my house and keep on working on these things. Because at one point I took an unconventional path. It's not too late. It is never too late. Even in the last inning, you could still try something. Might not win you the game, but it'll put you in a better situation. Or maybe help somebody else in their game.
100%. 100%. I love that. Well, I hope that helps. I hope that you take action. I hope you find your why. And I hope that pushes you over the edge and into the water. And I hope you know how to swim. But no, you got this. You got this. Just one step at a time. One step at a time gets you there. And really fall in love with the journey, right? Don't fall in love with the destination. Fall in love with the journey. You'll go so much further if you love the journey versus just the destination. the quote we always say is, the man who loves walking will go further than the man who loves the destination.
Yeah, it's really important. The success is not guaranteed, but the struggle is. The struggle is the journey. It is guaranteed. So you get to choose which way you want to suffer.
Exactly.
And suffering on the path of financial independence, from my estimation, has done nothing for me but positive. There were negative, but that's because I took it to a negative place. I went too extreme. I misread the balance. And luckily, that could be changed at any moment. Once you wake up, once you become conscious, once you understand that what you're doing is not helping serve the person that you want to be. With that, I say we move on to win of the week.
Absolutely. Best of luck, and let's do it. So, win of the week. Chris, as always, you got a better win of the week than me. Come on, buddy. What is your win of the week?
My win of the week is I'm currently recording the podcast from our new home in San Diego. So we are out of Phoenix, back in San Diego. My wife is not here quite yet. She's still back in Arizona for about another month, but she will be flying in tomorrow to spend basically 5 days with me, helping me unpack this house. It has been a lot of work. Every day is just waking up and unpacking, waking up and unpacking.
That's exciting. That's so exciting. I can't wait to hear more about it. Can't wait to I'm just so excited. I'm so excited for you. It's not even my house. I'm just so excited for you. It's a new chapter. It's new everything. I love it. I love it. So congratulations, my friend. That's awesome. So my win of the week is, I don't remember where I heard it this week, but it hit me when I did. And no, you know what? I know where I heard it. It was a post I saw online, and then I put it in ChatGPT, and I helped kind of interpret it and really understand it a little bit more. And what kind of came out of it was the idea that everything I want in life is hiding behind discipline and vision, essentially. And you can have all the discipline in the world, but if you don't have the vision on where you want to go, you'll stay where you want to go. But if you don't have any of the discipline, you'll never get to the vision. So part of that, in growing that and becoming more of a disciplined person and growing and more of a big thinker and having a vision. One of my win of the weeks is that I started a vision board, actually. And I know this was very popular back in the day, and I think it's kind of coming up again. Now, me personally, I probably should make it into a physical board. As of right now, I just have it in my Notion. I love Notion. It's a wonderful little database platform. I have everything separated by this is what I want this to look like. I want my house to look like this. I want my recording studio to look like this. I want this and that and whatnot. I want to look like this. What kind of skills do I want to possess? What kind of person do I want to be? What kind of man do I want to be? Right. And oftentimes in life, for all of us, we have an idea of what we want to go, where we want to go, but we never have a vision of where we want to go. We don't have I want a 3,000 square foot house with a red door, black trim, white walls, desert landscape in front. We have the idea, but we're not specific. And part of the issue with me was my goals were not specific enough, right? There's a scene in American Sniper where he says, aim small, miss small, right? So I got to really be fine-tuned with what I want in life, because otherwise I'm just not going to get it. And it's not so much getting it, it's becoming it. It's the journey for what it will make of me. And I've enjoyed this journey of personal development and whatnot, but this vision board has really helped me kind of crystallize it into physical form and be like, oh, this is kind of what we're hunting for. It's bringing my why into a physical format, right? So that would be my win of the week, is the creation of my vision.
Very cool. Oh, that's sweet. I hope to hear more about how that works for you. I've never done anything like that. But with that being said, thank you so much to our listeners for joining us for over 100 episodes at this point. So we look forward to the next 100 episodes. If you guys didn't have a chance to go back to listen to Monday's podcast on the 5 pillars or Welcome to the Fi Guys, please go ahead and do that. In the meantime, please leave a comment, leave a like. Let us know down in the comments exactly what it is that you want from us. If there's any topics, any suggestions for future mailbag episodes, you can always reach out to us at thefiguysvideopodcast.com or just go to thefiguys.com. There's a feedback tab right there. You can put your information in there. Most importantly, please share the Fi Guys with one person. That could be a friend, a family member, a stranger even. Just tap somebody. If you're in the store, tap the person on the back and say, "You ever heard of the Five Guys?" And then get the hell out of there because you're probably going to look like a crazy person. But please just share this information with somebody. Bring somebody along for this journey because you can go so much farther together than you can alone. With that being said, I'm Chris. He's Dom. Hope you have a great rest of your day. Later.
Peace.
This video podcast is sponsored by Monzon Wealth. The content in this podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be considered financial advice. We do not endorse specific products or services. Past performance does not guarantee future results. The opinions expressed are those of the host and guests, not the podcast sponsor.
It is crucial to consult with a qualified financial advisor or professional who can provide advice tailored to your specific needs before making any financial decisions, investments, or taking any other actions. If you are seeking specified help, you can reach out to Chris at monzonwealth.com.